mastering technical knowledge in each and every strategic professional examination may not be sufficient to get you through with the maximum chance of gaining 50% of the score in getting through the exam, not until you are equipped with a sound and effective exam technique and time management. So guys, have you got a clue what exactly make up a good and sound exam technique and time management? Hello, my name is Tze Kang, the expert tutor for Strategic Professional Exam. This topic explainer is showing exam techniques and time management. Here are the recipes in guiding the students of passing the examination. Apart from knowledge, exam techniques, and time management, these are the three key components and elements in ensuring a passing of each and every strategic professional exam. So, what exactly are the fundamental principles of having an effective and sound exam techniques and time management? To me, these are some of the models or techniques that you may have learned in subjects like performance management or as well as advanced performance management throughout the study in the ACCA. Some of the models such as activity-based management, limiting factor decision making, total quality management, last but not least, scenario planning. These could be models and tools not only examined in two of the exam paper. These are the models and tools that too can help in managing and dealing with examinations taking in all the exam papers in ACCA. Let me take you through showing you how exactly turning these models into something that is so relevant and practical to guide you to head towards the exam success. Guys, looking into all the strategic professional exam, activity-based management will tell us, firstly, do the right things. That is to tell you having the right mindset and a right habits, ensuring you only do the right things in gaining and contributing to marks creations. Finally, once you have got a plan, make sure do the things right. That is more pertaining to delivering technical knowledge in the right manner. Next, how do we apply limiting factor decision-making techniques in guiding us to exceed and excel in the examination? Firstly, ensuring every minute spent it's aimed to earn and achieve maximum marks from each and every part of the questions. Have you think about what exactly will guide you through and giving you the hint, what should we do first? What are the activities that should be performed in maximizing and optimizing the potentials of gaining as many marks as we could for every minute that we spend? Well, that is very much pertaining to two main tasks that found in every questions that found in every strategic professional exam. Rest assured, most of the exam papers will come with a heavy load of narrative tasks. In other words, written types of the exam questions, as well as numerical task questions that require lots of technical and complex computation. So think about the two tasks. Which of these tasks may spend least time in gaining most marks? Guys, it is the answer that highlighted in green color, which is obviously the narrative task in general. By spending time to generate ideas and articulating the idea would usually take lesser time to earn equivalent amount of marks as comparing to performing and completing a numerical task for computation. So that would worth giving you some thoughts. Should we focus more and first on dealing with narrative tasks followed by numerical? That is the first mindset. Second, many students tend to leave out narrative tasks when it comes to the event, time is running out, or near to the end of the exam session. Time for you to change this mindset, guys. It's time for you to twist the priority by telling yourself it is the narrative task that you should never let go. If in the unavoidable circumstances that you're going to let go the task, it is the numerical task that may cause the least harm and damage comparing to narrative tasks. The second reminders in the light of limiting factors decisions mindset, looking at both questions that found in section A and B. Well, obviously, different examinations papers would have different style in terms of the marks, in terms of the length of the exam questions that found in section A and B. I would generally classify all these questions into long and short questions. Well, to me, in order to make use of and practice the limiting factor decision-making mindset, I may want to start thinking of starting with the first short questions to get my momentum, to get my confidence level boost in the shortest possible time at the commencement of the exam. So the first questions to be attempted may worth considering coming from maybe it would be a section A, which is a short one, or it could be a section B questions that is a short one. As long as the short questions is the starting one, that will give you a good chance to boost your confidence level and building some of the marks as a cushion. Then, once you already built some cushion, it's time for you to go into long and challenging questions. Well, that may probably referring to the questions that found in the case study, except SPL, where all the tasks are equally connected and equally heavy. Other than SPL, some other strategic professional exam may have a case study that generally having such a long type of questions that is worth for you to attempt at this moment. And last, when it comes to the final phase of that time, always ended up with another and the last short questions so that you are not in the conditions of getting nervous. You're not in the conditions of getting rushing off. So that is where short questions would be just nice for you to grab hold of the mark at the last phase of the time remain. Thirdly, how do we apply TQM, Total Quality Management mindsets, in dealing with and improving with our exam performances? As you may know, TQM is talking about how do we aim to get things done with zero defect and get it done right at the first time. And last but not least, how do we keep improving? To me, one of the most effective ways to prevent from mistake, to ensure there is no defect, it always starts from planning. So in order to have a right plan, always ensuring you understand clearly and precisely what examining team are asking for. So that would lead you to first understand the requirement and the task correctly. From there, understand the scenario, know the storyline of the questions, connecting what the requirement is looking at and the scenario as given. Putting these two things together would have given you a general idea of your answer frame, and that will lead you to the next stage of answer planning. Last but not least, once you have an answer frame in the mind, it's time for you to turn things into a physical output of your work, which is delivery of the answer. Ensuring, guys, the layout, the presentations of the answer should cater to give maximum convenience to the markers in order to impress the markers, telling the marker you deserve a good grade from the quality of the work that you delivered. Last but not least, no matter how wonderful, no matter how perfect the plan is, there is always a need for all students to think about what if things goes wrong? What if things is not turning as planned? Scenario planning would therefore require in the event of crisis management. I will demonstrate in a while what do I mean by the tactical fill in the blank in the event of crisis management during the exam? Well, let's start looking at exam techniques in general. When we are dealing with an exam questions in any of the strategic professional exam, these are the processes, these are the actions that you would have gone through. First and foremost, it will involve in quality reading. What do you read? Refer to the earlier presentation. This is what you're reading on: requirements, tasks, and scenario. Putting these two things together, that will make you to start thinking, creating, crafting the layout and the content of your answer. Once you have got all the ingredients, it's time for you to put things together so that you can imagine how your answer presented at the end. Once you have a clear answer crafting mindset, that is when it is the time to turn things into either your word processor or the spreadsheet to deliver your answer in a professional manner. Among all the 4 stages of the activities that form a sound and effective exam technique, reading is definitely one of the most fundamental and the crucial action. If you start with a poor reading quality, it will affect the rest of the quality of the work that's shown a moment ago. So, what exactly make up an effective reading? These will be made up of: how do you read up the requirements? How do you read up the content that found in the exhibits? For some of the examinations, such as SPL, the exhibits is just part of it. It comes alongside with some pre-seen material as well. Last but not least, it is common that many strategic professional examinations may come with separated appendixes that come with either a piece of article, newspapers extract, or a bunch of the numerical data. So these are the sequence that make up effective reading. Always find out what examining team asks for. Always find out what have you got in both the exhibit and the appendix. That is how you start to think about, to blend, to connect these informations together. How exactly a student could use the following ways to help improving understanding the requirements of each question. As you may know, requirements form the first part of reading. Have you got an idea what exactly are the ways that can help you to improve your understanding on the requirement for each question? Here is the clue. Try to make a good use on the examiner report in every exam session. That will tell you what examiners are looking for, what examiners and examining team and marking team has discovered among the weaknesses and the strengths demonstrated by students generally. This is where the advices, the feedbacks given by the examining team and the marking team will be so valuable that help you as a student to identify ways to improve the reading and understanding on the requirement. In order for you to give a practice on your own before the exam, how are you supposed to know once you read through the requirements, have you got the right understanding? Have you picked up all the required tasks? You need a checklist. So where is the checklist coming from? And the answer is, you may refer to the marking scheme that found at the end of every setting of the model answers in the past year's questions, which I will demonstrate to you in a short moment. Apart from the first two, examining related document, exam guidance articles, which is found in some of the strategic professional exam, are so useful. These are the guidance provided by the examining team, showing the students in how to understand better what the questions is looking for. Last but not least, if you are attached with any of the tutor, I'm sure tutors would have given you valuable input and support in guiding you how to have a good understanding on those requirements. Here are the examples on some of the selected strategic professional exam papers. SPL will be the first essential exams that you will be facing. So this is just one of the instances of a requirement extracted from one of the exam sitting. You should always spend time to practice improving your understanding ability by reading through these requirements as just one of the demonstration. Once you have read through this requirement, think about what is there to respond in addressing the task that is asked in these questions. When you already have picked up the task that you think this is what being asked, how will you know that your understanding of the requirement is correct? Well, guys, that is the time for you to look at and check out in the marking scheme at the end of the model answers. So looking at where the marks are being awarded based upon the subheadings that found in the marking scheme, comparing to the one that you already have identified a moment ago, this reconciliation, this cross-checking activity will help yourself to confirm, have you managed to detect, have you managed to pick up all the tasks that's supposed to be responded? So that is how you train up and improve the understanding skill on the requirements on SPL. Looking at another essential papers, SPR, that is again another illustration on the requirements that picked up from one of the exam sitting. Before you look at the marking scheme, try to read through each and every of this requirement, pick up the task, ensuring look at the verb, look at what is after the verb. At the same time, keep an eye on the keyword and. Should you see an and in a requirement, that is highly likely to indicate there are two tasks that you have to respond. So once you picked up the task in each and every requirement, how do you confirm you have got the right findings? Again, going back and check through the marking scheme of that sitting of the exam questions. That would have given you a confirmed answer. Have you managed to pick up all the tasks correctly? Well, just to demonstrate a little bit further detail, here are the two of the option papers that brought to your attention. One of it, AFM. These are the list of tasks that found in one of the requirements. Again, you should do the same practices, looking at each and every of the requirement asked. Do you manage to pick up the task? Once you picked up the task, how do you know whether the task that you picked up is a correct and a complete one? Again, going back to the marking scheme. The marking scheme listing would tell you and confirm if your understanding and your finding is correct. Last but not least, here comes the last demonstrations of another options paper, APM. Comparing to the last couple of exam papers, a moment ago, the layout, the information that found in this requirement looked a little simple as comparing to the earlier one. So that tells you, by looking at this requirement alone in APM, that seems to be far insufficient. So guys, every strategic professional exam would have unique features in presenting their respective requirement that students will need to read through all the documents that I have mentioned a moment ago to understand fully what examining team is up to in designing and developing all the requirements, including APM. So guys, after getting appropriate guidance from tutor or from the ACCA resources on subject-specific related material, come back to APM and ask, have you got the correct listing of the tasks that to be responded? How do you find out and confirm whether your answer, your finding is correct? As usual, you have to compare to the marking scheme. So these would demonstrate the need of you spending some time learn how to focus on the requirement at the beginning and start picking up the skill of understanding each and every requirement that could look different in each and every strategic professional exams. In terms of putting up all the ideas, putting up all the clues together to deliver an answer, what advices do I have for you? So guys, these are the steps, these are the processes in terms of having and showing an effective delivery of answers in each and every strategic professional exam. First and foremost, try to set up the answer frame of the questions based upon the idea that you have, based upon the answer crafting framework in your mind. Try to put up the framework. Do not go into just go straight and narrate a full paragraph and long sentences of the answer without even having the frame of the answer. Once you have the answer frame placed and indicate and assign label and headings that you would like to articulate for, putting up all the labels and the heading first will ensure that you already have ensuring whatever you're going to write is within what is being asked to ensure the relevance of the answer. That is to ensure your effort, your activity, your time spent are marks value added or a marks generation or marks creation. You are not ending into waffling. You are not entering into the time that you spend by writing something which is not required. So label and headings of each of the point will ensure that you are able to produce quality answer. Final steps in delivery of the answer. Once you have all the label and the headings created, go into each of the heading and label and start putting up a structured and a concise written answer. So that is how you deal with narrative answer. In terms of numerical answers, guys, don't you think so? The delivery of the numerical answer is also the same. When you are asked to come up with a framework of the calculation, you also will expect and require to set up the answer frame to deliver and showing to the marking team you are able to deliver the entire numerical task completely with a framework set. In each of these steps of the framework, when there is any key label or headings needed, put it in. And finally, try to fit in the figure, the data for the calculations purpose. So to me, whether you are dealing with narrative or numerical questions, it will still demonstrate the same flow of effective way in delivering the answer. So let me show you what exactly that and how exactly I will be using these processes to deliver the two types of tasks and questions that I mentioned a moment ago. So here we go. In short, to improve your delivery of the answer, before showing the demonstration, these are the tips, these are the sources in guiding you, providing you solutions for that. Examiner's report would have given you a great and fantastic idea on delivering the answer. The examining team will tell the students clearly what examining team are looking for and expecting from the student's answer. Second, exam guidance article once again is something that you need and is worth the time to spend to read out and practice what that is being recommended. Model answers of the past year's questions will be another source of references, allowing you to take a look what exactly are the best practice in delivering and presenting the answers for each and every exam questions. And last but not least, without forget to mention about the great support from your respective tutors. So guys, here are some of the examples of how would I set up an answer frame for numerical questions. The screenshot that you see, it's a typical spreadsheet that extracted from the computer-based exam platforms in all strategic professional exam. Whatever the task that is being required in the requirement in strategic professional exam, it is likely that any numerical task once completed may expect to connect to some form of commentary, may expect to extend into some form of discussion. As a result, it is always important to ensure you are connecting your calculation to the written answer. Bearing in mind, the calculations are all presented in a spreadsheet, whereas the written answer, the narrative answer are found in the word processor. So guys, how do you connect them together? And the answer is always remember having the courtesy of showing a label such as working 1. So when you go back to the word processor, on the right requirement, always put refer to working 1. So that is how you guide the marking team about the crossover and the cross-checking of both the evidences. Once you start creating a calculation, it will be good to come up with a habit to list out the title of the working, telling the marking team what that you would like to calculate. Are you here to calculate the value of the asset? Are you here to determine the value of the share price? Are you here to determine a performance indicator? Always indicate with the title. Followed by whatever calculations may require a flow of the workings. So it would be good for the students to start showing the step of the flows. At least write down the formulas. That will allow you to have a clear pictures in the mind what numbers that you need to have. And obviously, to do the step 2 well, you need to have a good and sound technical knowledge on doing this. Once you have got a rough framework showing the steps of the working, the last step is for you to extract the numerical data from the appendix given or from the exhibit as appropriate and fit into here and start the calculations by using all the mathematical functions. In the event of crisis management, meaning when you come to the point that you are unable to derive a particular item just because that you are unsure what items to take or what number to fit in, don't forget, guys, to take advantage on own figure rules. Always try to just push it on whatever figure that you're not too sure, just insert any numbers into that. Well, obviously, you may not get any credits on that part, but taking and extending that incorrect figure to the next step, if you carry on the next step of the calculations correctly, you will be awarded with the same amount of credits, just like any other students. So that is what we call own figure rules. In terms of the setup of the answer for narrative questions, step number 1, always copy the requirement and put it down so that you can see what are being required, what to be responded. So copy down the requirement will be the first recommended move. Should the questions require some specific format of answer, such as report, memorandum, or many others, you may then just set up the format at the beginning. So these are the tasks that you can start doing it without even looking at the exhibit in detail, without spending a long time to read through the scenario. But by the time you read the requirement, you already know the requirement will say, prepare a report or prepare a memo. That will allow you to start putting up the frame so that you can start generating some easy marks over there. So this is where the easy mark may come from, particularly from professional skills marks, such as communication. Well, the third step, once you have got the requirement listed out, start generating ideas. What are the points that you would like to present in this requirement? So once you pick up headings on the points that you want to articulate, I would suggest strongly the students to start identifying the headings before you articulate. Create the heading will allow you to imagine how many marks that potentially is to be earned and what are the relevant findings for you to illustrate. So this is what to ensure again the relevance of the answer. Then finally, you start articulating your answers according to the heading based on the time allocated. So what exactly is the time that you should allocate in handling each of these tasks? Guys, now it's time to show you the time management. There are 2 approaches I would like to share with you on managing the time wisely and effectively. The first approach is what many students would have adopted, which is fine by allocating all the 3 hours to 100 marks. So that would turn out to be spending 1.8 minutes per mark. However, one of the downside of this approach may leave you no room to deal with crisis if crisis arises. As such, approach 2 may be worth for you to consider. Instead of spreading the entire 3 hours to every mark, I would take 2.5 hours and split into 100 marks. So therefore, every mark will have about 1.5 minutes. When you are tackling a 25 marker question, in other words, you allocate about 37 to 38 minutes. Once your time is up, whatever you have done, let it go. Let it go. Stop there, move on. Remember, so you need to do a lot of practices to ensure that your behavior are well under control with this kind of rational mentality. If you manage to control your behavior, whatever time you allocate for every mark based on 1.5 minutes per mark, once done, you let go, you move on. By the time you come to the last questions, you should let yourself with half an hour. You have a last 30 minutes for you to go back to fill in the blank, especially the blank that come with the heading. However, you have no time to articulate in some of the requirements early on. These are the blank for you to go back. Try to fill up the blank to rip off the mark as many as you could on the narrative questions. You only will go back to the blank space on dealing with numerical tasks when you are done with all the narrative tasks. Numerical task is the one that takes up most of the time. You want to do it last. So guys, if you manage to spare half an hour for you to fill up the blank, that is one of the most effective ways in managing crisis when time management goes wrong. Well guys, in conclusion, how do you think you could benefit from a series of exam techniques and time management skills that I have shared a moment ago? Here's the last piece of advice for all of you. Practice, practice, and practice. So I hope with that will give you a better way of managing your exam success. With that, good luck in your examination.